What would you do if a single act of vandalism unraveled your life, exposing secrets you thought were buried forever? The morning mist clung to Lake Serenity like a fragile veil, its surface a mirror of secrets and stillness. I stood by the water's edge, my kayak me pride, my escaper resting on the shore. Its sleek, cedar-crafted body gleamed under the dawn's soft light, a testament to years of careful craftsmanship. My name is Ethan Caldwell, a carpenter who poured his soul into building that kayak, every curve a memory of late nights and calloused hands. That morning, I was there to forget paddle out and let the lake wash away the weight of a failing business and a fractured marriage. But fate had other plans. The first sign of trouble was the paint. Bright red, garish, and unmistakable. It screamed across the kayak's side in jagged letters. Liar! The word hit me like a fist, raw and personal. I stumbled closer, my boots sinking into the muddy shore, heart pounding. Who would do this? My eyes darted to the surrounding pines, half expecting the culprit to be watching. But the lake was silent, save for the distant call of a loon. I ran my fingers over the paint, still wet, smearing under my touch. This wasn't just vandalism. It was a message, one I didn't yet understand. I called the sheriff's office, my voice shaking as I reported the crime. Deputy Clara Nguyen arrived within the hour, her sharp eyes scanning the scene. "This is personal, Ethan," she said, crouching beside the kayak. "Someone wanted you to feel this." Clara was new to town, but she had a reputation for seeing through people. I trusted her, but I couldn't shake the unease creeping up my spine. I hadn't told her or anyone about the anonymous letters I'd been receiving for weeks, each one accusing me of betrayal, of hiding something. I thought they were a prank, but now, staring at that word on my kayak, I wasn't so sure. The town of Havenwood buzzed with gossip by noon. Lake Serenity was our pride, a place where families picnicked and kids learned to fish. Vandalism here was unheard of, let alone something so brazen. I spent the day scrubbing the paint, but it clung stubbornly, as if mocking me. By evening, Clara called with a lead. Security footage from a nearby bait shop showed a woman in a hooded jacket near the lake at 3 a.m., spray can in hand. The footage was grainy, but Clara was confident. "We'll find her," she promised. Days passed and the investigation deepened. I tried to focus on my work, shaping wood in my shop, but the kayak sat untouched in my garage, a constant reminder. Then, on a rainy Thursday, Clara knocked on my door. "We've got her," she said, her face grim. "Karen Whitaker. She's confessed." Karen? The name hit me like a brick. Karen Whitaker was a local realtor, polished and poised, always smiling at church potlucks. She was the last person I'd suspect until I remembered the rumors. Years ago, she'd been close to my wife, Lila, before our marriage crumbled. Lila never spoke of her, but there was a bitterness there, a story I'd never pried into. Karen's arrest was the talk of Havenwood. At her hearing, she stood defiant, her blonde hair pulled back tightly, her eyes blazing. "He deserved it," she spat, pointing at me from the stand. The courtroom gasped, and I felt every eye on me. Clara had warned me Karen claimed a motive, but nothing prepared me for this. "Ethan's a liar," she said, her voice trembling with rage. "He destroyed my family, and no one ever held him accountable." The judge silenced her, but the damage was done. Whispers filled the room, and I felt my carefully built life unraveling. The truth, or at least Karen's version of it, came out in fragments. She claimed I'd cheated her father, Henry Whitaker, out of a business deal a decade ago, a logging contract that cost him his livelihood. Henry had been my mentor, teaching me the trade before I started my own shop. I'd always thought we parted on good terms, but Karen said otherwise. She said Henry spiraled after losing that deal, drinking himself into an early grave. She blamed me, said I'd manipulated him, taken advantage of his trust. The kayak, she said, was her way of making me pay, of marking me for what I'd done. I sat in the courtroom, stunned. I hadn't cheated Henry. The contract fell through because of market shifts, not betrayal. But Karen's words stirred doubts. Had I missed something? Had I been blind to his struggles? The judge didn't care for her sob story. The kayak was a work of art, valued at $15,000, and the environmental damage from the paint seeping into the lake was severe. Karen was fined $120,000 and ordered to fund the kayak's full restoration, a process that would take months. She left the courtroom in tears, her life savings gone, her reputation shattered. But the twist came later, and it wasn't Karen's doing. That night, I found a letter slipped under my door, handwritten and signed. Karen wasn't alone. It read, "Check the lake's east shore midnight." My heart raced. Against my better judgment, I went, flashlight in hand, the darkness pressing in. There, by the water, stood Lila, my ex-wife, her face pale under the moonlight. "I told her to do it," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I gave her the paint, told her where your kayak was." I staggered back, the betrayal cutting deeper than the graffiti. Lila confessed she'd never forgiven me for our divorce, for moving on while she struggled. She'd known Karen's pain, fed it, used it. "I wanted you to hurt," she said, tears streaming down her face. "But I didn't think it'd go this far." She'd watched from the shadows as Karen painted, too cowardly to act herself. Now, guilt had driven her to confess, but it was too late. Karen had taken the fall, and Lila's admission wouldn't undo the fine or the shame. I reported Lila to Clara the next day, but the case was closed. Karen had confessed, and Lila's role was hearsay without proof. I was left with a restored kayak, its surface flawless but its meaning tainted. The town moved on, but I couldn't. Karen's rage, Lila's betrayal, and my own doubts about Henry haunted me. Had I been the villain all along, blind to the pain I'd caused? Or was I just a scapegoat for their grief? The lake, once my refuge, now felt like a mirror reflecting my failures. I sold the kayak last week, unable to paddle it without seeing that red word, liar, burned into my mind. The money went to a local charity, a small attempt to atone for whatever part one played in this mess. Karen moved away, her life upended by the fine. Lila still lives in Havenwood, but we don't speak. The lake remains, serene and silent, holding its secrets. I walk by it sometimes, wondering if I'll ever know the full truth. Some stains, I've learned, can't be scrubbed away. ND.